tonight I'm planning to capture a deep sky object using this telescope, which is the Skywatcher 150 PDS telescope. So tonight the conditions are perfect for astrophotography, so there are no clouds, and tonight I will get 1 to 2 hours of total clear skies, so I'm definitely planning to capture a deep sky object tonight. So if you're planning to buy this telescope for astrophotography, but still you're not sure whether this telescope is the right telescope for you, then this video might be quite helpful for you, because in this video I'm planning to use this telescope for deep sky astrophotography. So join me for a new night of astrophotography from my backyard. Before talking about this astrophotography setup, I'm planning to mention that this video is not sponsored, I'm not being paid for it, and all products shown in this video were purchased by myself. But now, let's get started. So for sure, when planning to talk about this telescope, it's important for me to introduce the entire setup for sure. So tonight I'm planning to use this setup for astrophotography. The mount is the Skywatcher HEQ5 Pro go-to mount, which is a very reliable mount, and it works quite good in combination with this telescope. On the top I'm planning to use the Skywatcher 150 PDS. The camera that I'm planning to use is the CWO ASI 533 MC Pro, which is a cooled, dedicated astrophotography camera. In order to achieve round stars in the edge with a longer exposure time, I'm planning to use a guiding system, so this guiding system. So it's a 60mm guide scope, and at the back of this telescope I've attached the CWO ASI 120mm mini mono guiding camera. For controlling the entire astrophotography setup, I'm planning to use the CWO ASI Air Pro, which is this small astro computer. So later on I'll have to balance the entire setup, and I'll have to align the mirrors of this telescope, and then I am already ready for capturing a deep sky object tonight with this astrophotography setup. So later on I'll guide you through the process of capturing this deep sky object. So I'll talk about the light frames, the camera settings, and all the important aspects that you need to know when planning to capture a deep sky object using this astrophotography setup. So now we have to wait until it's dark enough, and then we can start focusing the telescope, and then we can align the telescope to the object that we are planning to capture tonight. So see you later. So hello everyone, it is already dark enough for starting the astrophotography session. So I have already done the pole alignment process, so the next thing that we'll have to do is aligning the telescope to a bright star in order to focus the telescope. But before doing that, I'd like to turn on the cooling of the camera so that we will reach the final temperature of the camera quite fast. Turn on. So now the cooling is turned off. I'm now planning to cool down the sensor of the camera to minus 20 degrees Celsius. Here we go. So now let's move the telescope to a bright star in order to be able to focus the telescope. Let's look for a bright star in that region. This star should be visible right now. Here we go. Let's center the star in the field of view. And now let's move the telescope to the bright star in order to be able to focus the main telescope. The guiding system is already in focus. Here we go. Let's see whether that's working or not. So I'm planning to capture 1 minute or 2 minute single exposures. So I'm not yet that sure which exposure time I'm planning to use, but I guess it will be in the range of 1, 2, 3 minutes, something in a range. So I'm definitely taking test images later on. So now the telescope is aligning now the tracking mount is aligning the telescope perfectly. It seems like the star is right now centered in the telescope, which means I can now start focusing the telescope on this bright star. Let's switch to the video mode in order to be able to actually see the star. So right now, finally, the telescope is in focus. So I focused it on a bright star, and the camera has already reached its final temperature. So we are right now at minus 20 degrees Celsius. Now, so I'm planning to talk about the object that I'm planning to capture tonight. So for tonight, I've planned to capture the Bubble Nebula. It's a very nice object, but so far it was always a bit too small for me, and with this small sensor and with this telescope, it should be quite good. So now let's look for the object. Something that might be quite interesting to mention is that there is a star cluster right next to the bubble nebula, but I'm not planning to capture the bubble. I'm not planning to capture the star cluster right next to this because I'm planning to center the bubble nebula in my field of view. So now let's move the telescope towards the object. So the object should be in this direction. So now let's move the telescope in the right direction. It looks like the direction is perfect. Later on I'll have to check all the cables, whether that's working. Can't really check that right now. I'm doing that later on, I guess. Now let's center the object. Now the telescope or the tracking mount is checking the position of the star cluster, so of the nebula. It looks like, okay, it's realigning the object once again. But now it should be centered. Let's wait a second. Perfect. Target is centered. Everything went quite according to plan this night. The guiding was perfect, the telescope was in focus, and the equipment collected images of this object over multiple hours. As you can see in the time-lapse video, unfortunately, it was quite cloudy. Clouds were always crossing my images. So in the end, I had to delete multiple images, which results in a shorter exposure time. That night, there was almost no wind, which allowed me to use a longer exposure time. In this case, I used a single exposure time of 3 minutes. In total, I was able to collect an exposure time of around 3 hours. Unfortunately, this is still far too short to capture a truly amazing image of this object. Nevertheless, I combined and stacked the images and managed to capture this image that night. Some details are visible, but I would have preferred to collect a much longer total exposure time in order to reveal as many details as possible. The final image has a total exposure time of 3 hours and 18 minutes. I definitely plan to photograph this object again in the coming years. Next time I'm planning to use a telescope with a shorter focal length so that I can include the star cluster in the image as well. If you have any further questions about the image or about the equipment I've used, definitely feel free to ask me down below in the comments and I will definitely help you. If you would like to further support me, you can now become a member of my channel. Becoming a member of my channel would really support me, and your support really means a lot to me. If this video was interesting and helpful to you, I would really appreciate a like and a subscription. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, clear skies, Felix.